Hello, you lovely people. This is Niho from Niho Models and Art. And today we're going to start a series where I show you where to get started when you get your first model. We'll do some talk about the instructions, about the sprues in this video. And in later videos, I'm going to show you parts of the build of this model. And which model did I choose? It's the Tamiya Panther. Because this is maybe one of the best models to get started into the model building hobby. Why, in my opinion? Because as you see here, you've got a lot of flat surfaces, like on the hull, on the turret, where you can train your brush techniques, but it also has some details that will also be a good training point for smaller parts. And this model is extremely affordable. You can get it for I get it for below 20 euros on Amazon. And yeah, that's it. That's the Tamiya Panther, and it's in 135. So you've got quite a bigger model. So you got even more surfaces to train. So let's first talk about instructions. On most instructions, you will have one page that shows you all the parts that are contained in the kit. So you get an overview over the parts, and maybe if you don't find some parts on the sprues, you can look it up here and match the numbers to see which part do you need, or maybe if you got parts that look similar. Another thing to look out on the first page where the parts are shown is if there are any parts that are not needed. In Tamiya instructions, especially in this one, there's only one part, and most of the times they are blacked or grayed out. Like you see here, this is a little more gray. This is number 43. And if you look it up, you can see it, but it says 33 unnecessary. So you don't need this part. Always look out for that, because sometimes when you fix parts that are unnecessary, that are even in the instructions, it's a bad thing. Okay, let's go on. First page of the instructions. Read what is written on the left side. There are some tips, some hints that help you build the model better. So this is always a good starting point to read the instructions on the written instructions when you build the model. A lot of times on Tamiya models or even on Revell ones, you will find parts that say, do not cement. So do not glue this part, just put it in. Why is that? And why does it matter? On Tamiya models, sometimes you will see that you would be able to motorize them. So you put a battery pack, a little motor in there, and theoretically they could drive around. That's why sometimes it says you don't need to fix some parts in place, especially when it comes to the wheels. Most of the times I fix these parts because I'm not going to motorize them anyway, and of what I've seen, it wouldn't work, so don't bother about that. Next thing, because it's also on this page, especially when it comes to tanks or German tanks with a lot of road wheels on each side, my advice would be to not fix them. Don't fix the wheels. Wait until your model is almost done. Weather and paint them separately, also prime them separately, because once you've put them on, some of the times you won't get them off, so you can't paint like parts of the lower hull. So watch out for that. In this model in particular, these little things hold the wheels in place. They are made out of rubber, so you could technically attach the wheels and also take them off. One thing, because I said read what is on the left side, like you see here, it says cut off pins. So you have to cut off the pins of the road wheel, otherwise it won't, the tracks won't fit. So read these parts better early than later, so you always know what's going on. Let's go to the next side. Here we are coming to some of the details. When it comes to applying details or accessories on a tank, there are basically two schools of thought or two variants you can do. Some people put the whole tank together with all extras, even with some of the minifigures. They put them on, they prime them together, they paint them together, they weather them together. I sometimes do, I sometimes don't, it depends on the model. But what you always have to think of, if you glue on, if you place like these spare tracks on the tank, you won't really be able to reach what's below it, so you won't be able to weather it. Now you could say, okay, that's unnecessary because you're not going to see it anyway. That is up to your discretion. You could, for example, these accessories, these shovels and everything, these boxes, you could glue them on the parts where they belong, and then you could put them on the tank, or you leave them off, prime and paint them separately, and only put them on the end. That's completely up to your discretion. So let's finish with the instructions. One thing, and I think I've said this in a video before, when it comes to the tracks. In this case, you see that's a screwdriver, and it tells you to heat the screwdriver. I do that with a candle and an old hobby knife blade, and then you press these pins together. I'll show that in the later videos on this tank, but keep in mind, some instructions say you have to melt them together. Some say you can use super glue, and some tell you you can use regular plastic cement. I would advise you to do as the instructions tell you, because if you try to glue together tracks with plastic cement like the Tamiya Extra Thin, and they are not made to be glued together with that, you're just going to melt the tracks and ruin them. There's no fixing. So always keep that in mind. Good. And then you got like instructions on how to paint and apply decals. Also read that. Last thing we're going to take a look at are the parts in general. So usually they come inside of little plastics bags. I already removed them. So here we got the tracks. Here we got the little things that keep the wheels in place. You can see they are made out of flexible like plastic or rubber material. And then we come to the normal sprues or the big hull parts. What you can do or what you want to do is check your parts if there are some things that need to be removed. Like especially on this upper hull, it's obvious you need to remove this part, otherwise you can't fit the turret on. Seems logical. Usually you don't have to check these parts because I've never encountered a model with damaged sprues. The only thing you can encounter or will sometimes encounter, especially on older models, is flash. Now what is flash? These parts are made by injection molding. So sometimes when you have like edges, there will be a little extra plastic on them. That's just because some of these molds are so old that my father, who's almost 60, was building the same model with the same molds as I'm doing today. So these molds get old, there will be flash. So check for that, remove it with a modeling knife. And what you can also check for is especially if the little parts like these hooks or these handles are in good condition. Like I said, I've never encountered any broken parts on a new model, but you can check for that. And be aware, this is not, especially when it's your first model, this is not like Lego or any other models. There are no spare parts. So if you need like 10 of these hooks, there will be 10 of these hooks. So always keep that in mind when you remove them from the sprue, to be very gentle and carefully so you don't break them, because there is no spare part. Okay, so that's it for this video. In the next video, I will show how to glue parts together. I know this sounds very basic, but this series is meant for people who've never built a model and want to get into the hobby. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, comment, follow my channel, and see you next time. Bye-bye.